This is my 20-ton Arcan hydraulic press. Like a lot of my other machines around here, I've got this used. Haven't done a whole lot to it. It's quite a handy thing to have, but I made a little knob here so I can release the ram, the hydraulic jack on the ram to raise it. I've been using some metal plate on it to press. I did not get a set of press plates with this. So looking at different press plate options, I figured at first I want to get some full width press plates on this press. Allow me to press flat things while being fully supported. Eventually I'd like to get a finger brake kit for this, one of those weld together finger brake kits you can buy. Put that on here so I can make some bends and some heavier metal than what my small hand bender can make. So I went ahead and I got these press plates here. I found them on online auction site that we all know. These I got in 12-inch widths. Issue with that is the distance between my uprights is about 11 3/4. So they don't quite fit between there. That's fine, I knew that going into it. Next size down I believe were 10 inches, which were narrower than I wanted. I wanted to start with some full width plates. Maybe one of these days I'll either buy or make a set of narrower ones, maybe 6-inch wide, that I'll slide back and forth on here, but I wanted a full platform to start with for what I do. So it looks like these plates were cut on probably a CNC plasma cutter, I'm guessing. So these faces could be a little bit hard. I think this is just hot, little mild steel. But, so I'd like to trim these down 11 3/4 each. So that gives me a total width of 23.5. So that way I've got plenty of room. Got a 1/4 inch of plate in here, so I won't have to fight too much with trying to get tight-fitting plates in and out of these uprights when I'm turning them around. So I could put these in the Bridgeport, cut them off. Of course, cutting a 1/4 inch off, these are 1.5 inch thick plates. Cutting a 1/4 inch off of these, that'd be quite a bit of work on my Bridgeport with a 1-horse motor. I could stand them upright against a angle block and cut them off on the face mill, but I don't have a face mill for the Bridgeport right now. Better option would be to lay them down flat, just like you see. Put them in the big Kearney and Trekker horizontal, and cut them off. But I don't have a carbide insert face mill for the Kearney and Trekker either. I don't know if I want to do this with high-speed steel, with a high-speed steel mill, with the amount of stock I have to take off here, as well as these faces potentially being a little hard for being plasma cut. I'm sure the high-speed steel mill would not stay sharp to cut a 1/4 inch off of 2 sides, 2 plates, so four cuts. But I do have a shaper. I've got that old 1930s Gould and Eberhardt shaper, which should be able to handle this. Now what I'll do is I don't want to lose these circles, so I'll take a 1/4 inch off of the sides of the V notches in them. Make the V notches a little shallower, but I don't think that's going to be any big deal to for what I do. So go over to the shaper and start getting set up. So I've only shown this in one other video, but this is my 1930s Gould & Eberhart G&E 16-inch shaper. I haven't done a whole lot of work on this other than cleaning it up, realign some pulleys on here, give it a good oiling. Haven't cut a whole lot on this. I'm not real experienced with running shapers, so I'm learning myself. I find a channel called Rustinox. I believe he's out of Belgium, I believe. I learned a lot off of his channels. That's where I've had the most luck learning how to grind the tooling for this. And I have cut one side of one press plate already on here, just to get some experience doing it off camera here. So I've got my stroke length set up pretty good. My speed on the ram set up. So we'll go ahead and load the plate up for the second side and get that cutting. So here's the plate. So I've already cut this face on the large V, cut it a 1/4 inch down. So now I'm going to want to cut this V a 1/4 inch down. Since it's just a press plate, I'm not too concerned about parallels or squareness or stuff like that. You know, it's just a press plate. I will align this face to the ram just to kind of maintain whatever squareness is there from the plasma cutter. So this face is so tall, I don't want to put this vertically without some support. I could put an angle block in here, but I think it's going to be much more rigid if I put it down in these T-slots on the side of the cube here. So there's kind of rough set in place. Use these big strap clamps here that gives me good clamping across this face here. This ear is kind of hanging up in the air, but as it's 1.5 inches wide, we're going to be pushing this way on it. I don't think it's going to be an issue. The size of plate we've got here. I'll go ahead and load my tooling up. Just using a roughing tool, slight round nose on it. Now this lantern holder is made for some taller rectangular tool steel than what I'm using, so eventually going to make some different holders for it, but right now I'm just going to stack up a few tool blanks in here just to give me the height that I require. I'm also not going to have this tooling hanging too far down. below the ram. You need to try to get as much force going back into the ram as possible. Try to keep everything as rigid as possible. Like I said, I'm not too concerned about squareness in here. Whatever was cut out originally with the plasma cutter is fine, but I don't want to get too carried away. I want to stay somewhere square, so I'm just going to set this face here that I'm cutting up parallel to the stroke of the ram. So to do that, I've got a little stair indicator with a fairly large contact pad on the stem there. It's only a 10,000th increment, right? Yeah, 10,000th increment indicator. That way we'll get it close, but it's not going to be so precision. That large foot on there will help it float over the highs and lows in the rough cut surface here, this plasma cut surface. Something like this indicator is good also for squaring up castings and anything where you got kind of a rougher surface. Just going to temporarily lightly set these bottom clamps in place. Just making this plate roughly in line with this T-slot down here, just to give room to throw these clamps on. I'm not 100% sure these bottom clamps are even necessary, but makes me feel better. I'll use my feed here. Set this indicator to 0. So it's about 100 thousandths off. That's not great. So I got a little more adjustment to do on that. I'll finish adjusting this, get this all locked down, and I'll bring you back. So I've got this set up. I've got it fairly parallel on that indicator, so I know I'm less than a few thousandths. So this is being parallel to the stroke of the ram. Gone and oiled the whole machine. These old machines really take a lot of oil. I got the length of the stroke already set. I set that down to about 12 and 3/4. That way I've got a 1/2 inch extra stroke on the entrance and a 1/4 inch extra stroke on the end. And I've got my Z-axis, or whatever you would call it. My table is raised all the way to the top, so I'm going to have to take this down a little lower than I wanted to. But so I'm going to take this to the back of the stroke by hand. I'm going to want to set that about a 1/2 inch off my workpiece, a little off, so adjust that. So that'll set it up. That way I've already verified my feed, so as it's retracting, it's feeding over, so it's not feeding over as it's cutting. Now you might have known wondered what the background noise was here. If you're not familiar with my channel, I got the wood stove running, and it's right over in the corner, just next to this machine. So there's quite a bit of noise from the blower, but seeing that it's winter time, it's kind of unavoidable. Now the shaper needs a little bit of work to it. Needs some new belts. In fact, you should have two drive belts on the motor, and one's busted. I've only got one drive belt. So between that, only having one drive belt, one used drive belt, this shaper being 90 years old, and me basically being a rookie, I'm not going to feed this too hard. I'll end up zeroing off on this face, and I'm going to take 50 thousandths deep depths of cut by about 20 thousandths step overs. I'm sure this machine is capable of more than that, but due to the machine's age and condition and my lack of experience, I'm not going to push it. Still, that means if I'm only taking the 1/4 inch off, that's only 5 passes I've got to make out here to remove what I need to remove. So now this was originally made to run off of a flat belt system. It's got an old electric motor on it, adapted with a 3-speed GM truck transmission on there to give it some gear selections. So that's just going to add to the noise so that once I start this up, because that motor will be idling in the back. The clutch on it, especially when it's not engaged, it's a little rattly, so hopefully you'll be able to hear some of this. Before we get too far, I think some PPE is required. So I know I've checked this stroke through by hand. I'm going to leave my feed lever disengaged right now. We're just going to turn the ram on and see what it looks like. Everything looks good there. I'll bring this over and touch off on the 0 on this part. Now this is a very rather rough cut face, so I'm see where it hits first. see the first mistake I made. I don't want to cut off this round side, so I'm going to flip this over, cut the side that I want to cut off, and I'll bring you back again. Okay, now I got it set up right. I got this small V facing up. This is the side we want to cut down. Right now it's at 12 inches. We want it to be 11 3/4 when it's done. Fire this back up and touch it off again. And gear here. Start the motor back up and touch off for a 0. Zoom it in a little more. I don't know if you can see, but we've just scratched a little line right there on the end. I'm going to move this over to starting position. Drop this. We do a 40 just for the first pass here. 40 thousandths. Put a little dark cutting oil on it. It'll probably get pretty smoky in here, but double check my feeds again. Looks like we're feeding good, so go ahead and engage the side feed. Turn it pretty far away. It's only feeding over about 20 thou pass. There, it's just starting to catch now. Okay, first pass. Okay, there's about 90 thousandths taken off it. I'll continue cutting this down. 3 more passes to do it. I'll take 2 passes, measure real quick before the last pass. I'll bring you back on the last pass. There's the 4th pass on that. Take a quick measurement using some big verniers here. give us an idea where we're at. I'm not looking for it to be real super precise. So I've got about 40 thou to go. So I tell you what, Ron, I'll get you set up to for a little closer look at this. See if you can get some closer look up on the shaper action. Okay, so I need about 36 thou for this last pass here. Not as deep as the first few passes. This ended up being my 6th pass. I didn't measure this before I started. It must have been slightly over 12 inches. So hence the extra pass. So put you in a spot and you can see it. Hopefully don't hit the camera here with any oily chips. Well, there it is. That'll be the finished size for that. The tool, there's not even any heat in the tool, so it's putting all the heat in the chips. That's pretty good. So that'll finish that off at 11 3/4. Of course, I've already cut this front face on here. You know, it's just a rough shaper finish, but it's kind of a nice finish for a rougher. And since it is only a press plate, I think I'm going to leave it that way instead of putting a shear tool on it and trying to get it better. I'll save that experiment for another video. Here they are. They're all fit. It's a little smoky in here. Hopefully it doesn't affect yours too much, but they're all trimmed down. Got some good clearance in there, so I should be able to flip them around and deal with them easy enough. And you know, plus it'll give a good solid platform to any tooling I want to use on this in the future. Any platforms of tooling I'd like to put on here. Like I said, I'd like to consider getting one of those. I think they're made by Swag Off-Road. The finger benders that they make for the harbor freight presses, I think would fit in here without too much modification, so I can bend up some various angles. I think this old 1930s Gould and Eberhard shaper did a pretty good job for the first true job that I've ever done on it. I'm actually quite happy with the way it's running. We'll get some belts on it, clean it up, see if we can get some of these shakes and rattles out of it. I think this will end up being a pretty good machine for this shop. But I hope you enjoyed this first video using this shaper, and We'll see you next time.